Right, welcome to the Maxi Geek show. We'll start this again. Today is Friday, April 8th. This is episode number 13 of the Maxi Geek show. As I was saying, when the microphone was completely muted and I didn't realize, there's been some news this week, some interesting news, some less than exciting news, but some news nonetheless. We'll speed through the first two stories because I've already spoken about it and I don't think I can come up with more things to say. But the first is that Lego have unveiled a life-size McLaren F1 race car at the the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne at Albert Park. This is a full-size car, so this is the same size as the real-life McLaren race car. And as you can see if you're watching the video on the screen, at the bottom of the picture, there is the actual F1 car that Lego Technics developed earlier in the year that you can buy from Lego and in select stores around the country. So if you want to have the car for yourself, you can do that through that model. The full-size one there does not move. It is not drivable in any way, shape or form. We have seen drivable cars with the Lego Batmobile. We've had cars that can move, but not under their own power with the Lego McLaren Senna car from the Lego Speed Champions DLC for Forza Horizon 4 a couple of years ago. This is the first one that's ever been built locally for an event like this, so it is good to see. And as I said earlier, Daniel Ricciardo took some photos sitting inside the driver's seat because it is a full-size car, so it is very much built with the team at McLaren F1. So, it was all done in conjunction with them and obviously with Lego. It was built here by the Brickman himself, one of Australia's few Lego master builders, and does feature over 288,000 Lego bricks and took nearly 1,900 hours of effort to be built. So, yeah, it is interesting that they've done it. It is down at the Melbourne Grand Prix for now. Whether or not it stays in Australia once the show is done, or if it, ships around and follows the Grand Prix around the world, we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of things we have to wait and see, next week we'll be hitting the greens again. So on April 15th, we will see the release of Mario Golf for the Nintendo 64 app as part of the Switch Online Expansion Pack Plus level of membership there. This is the 5th title to be added to the service, having had the Paper Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, Majora's Mask, and most recently F-Zero all appear. With this one releasing, this will mark we've only got 2 games left as part of the confirmed original lineup, and that will be Kirby 64 or Kirby and the Crystal Shards, depending on if you want to use the full name, and then Pokemon Snap is the other remaining title. We don't know which one will come out first. We don't know when they're going to come out, but so far they've kept to a monthly cadence on these releases. If that stays true, and we do see them stay to the monthly cadence, we'll get one sometime in May and then one sometime in June. Obviously the 12-month anniversary for the 64 app will be in October, so whether or not we get more games before October or we have to wait until October for the next sort of group of games to be released, who knows, we have to wait and see. But for now, we'll be able to hit the greens on the Nintendo 64 version of Mario Golf sometime next Friday. Now I specify sometime next Friday because Nintendo of America said April 15th. We've yet to see the official tweet from Nintendo of Australia or Nintendo of Europe. Nintendo Japan have said the 15th. It just depends if it's going to be like 11 a.m. for us or if it's going to be like 7 p.m, something like that. These times, unfortunately, aren't locked in place. It's not like the same time every time they do this. It's sort of a bit random. So we just have to wait and see. Speaking of things we have to wait and see on is the reveal that Max Payne is getting remade. So Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, are being remade by Remedy Games, the creators of the original games in the first place. So Remedy Games were the developers of the games, but the IP owner and publisher was Rockstar Games. Rockstar is paying for these ones to be redone. So Remedy, in addition to creating Alan Wake 2 and having just remastered Alan Wake for current platforms, are now developing, these 2 Max Payne games for Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 and PC. So these are only going to be available on the next generation consoles and PC. So last generation Xbox and PlayStation owners are out of luck. And as always, if you're on Switch, you have a better chance of getting the original games ported over than you do having these new ones come across. We don't have a timeline for when these will be released. We do know that they are being done in the Northlight engine, which is Remedy's internally developed game engine. It's the same one that did power Quantum Break and Control. Whether or not it's going to be the exact same engine or it's going to be modified, we don't know yet. We honestly don't know much apart from the fact it's going to be made in that and that it is being made for the next-gen systems. It is interesting that they are, themselves doing it. We've seen, Dark Souls, for example, on PlayStation 5. That game was made by From Software. It was published by, I can't remember who published it originally. But the remaster or the remake was done by, I've forgotten their name. Blue something or other. The same guys that did a lot of work on the Uncharted ports. But they remade it and everything. So that's generally how it works, is the original developer may lend some support. Maybe they've got some design documents that they can share to help people understand things better. With the Perfect Dark reboot that's coming along from the initiative, Rare are not involved in that, but there's a chance that they may have shared some design documents about the world. There's some lore information that we don't have access to as public. So maybe something like that. So it is kind of rare to see a development studio basically get a chance to remake the game that put them on the map. Alan Wake was their first game after the Max Payne games, and obviously Max Payne has a history being the first games to do bullet time, and also making use of narcotics in order to restore health. Sorry, just taking a drink. So it is interesting that they are the ones to do it, but beyond that we don't really know anything more about it. Speaking of things we don't know a lot about, Tomb Raider. So 2022 is the 25th anniversary of the Tomb Raider series. We do know that there are 2 games coming to Switch sometime this year. The isometric games from the Xbox 360, Xbox Live Arcade era. I can't remember the names of them now either. But so during the week, Epic Games officially launched Unreal Engine 5. So they've been developing the engine for a number of years. We've seen a lot of tech demos over the years, and we've seen a few games even, being developed with it. Obviously, the biggest one is Forspoken from Square Enix and Luminous Productions. That game was obviously delayed until later in the year to give the team more time. But now the engine is officially complete. So it's finished all its testing. It's now, in developers' hands, and they are developing games. So when I say developing games, what I mean is they're officially using the engine to develop games. They were using sort of pre-release software, for lack of a better word then. But during the Unreal events where they sort of showcased everything, they announced a bunch of developers that are using the engine to create games. Like Ninja Theory, we know is already using it to make Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. But we also now know that Crystal Dynamics is developing a new Tomb Raider game in Unreal Engine 5. That's it. We don't know any other details, just that tweet from them to say they're doing it. We got confirmation last week that the next iteration of the Witcher series will be developed in Unreal Engine 5. But again, beyond that, we don't know anything other than that information because they're being very, very coy about it. Ozgame is the site here that we're referencing for this story for now. The quote here from Dallas Dixon from Crystal Dynamics just says, "We have started development on our next Tomb Raider game powered by Unreal Engine 5. Our goal is to push the envelope of fidelity and to deliver the high-quality cinematic action experiences that fans deserve from both Crystal Dynamics and the Tomb Raider franchise." Obviously, Crystal Dynamics did the first 2 games in the reboot trilogy. The third game was done by Eidos Montreal. And while Eidos Montreal were developing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the team at Crystal Dynamics were doing Marvel's Avengers for Square Enix. And then now, they've been tapped to help develop the Perfect Dark reboot over at the initiative. Also interesting, just a tangent here, but during the week, the game director for Days Gone, the PlayStation 4 exclusive title. He left Sony's Bend studio, last year. He's now popped up as a design director at Crystal Dynamics. So yeah, so we know, the Coalition are doing some work in Unreal Engine. They've actually done. I'll bring the video up while I'm talking, but they did a bunch of things for, game engines and such to sort of showcase everything. It's just one of those things that they've done. It is very cool. So here we go. This is the official sort of tech demo that the Coalition put together. So the Coalition are the studio behind the Gears series now at Xbox. Obviously, Gears was originally created by Epic Games. They did the first 3 games. The Gears prequel was done by People Can Fly out of Poland. And then obviously Gears 4 and Gears 5 are being done by the Coalition. So we've seen that footage there before, the character test and the ruins with the alien obelisk spinning thing. We've seen that before. They were released sometime either early this year or late last year. But now all this is new. So this is not from a game. This is not them developing, saying, hey, this is what the next Gears looks like. This is just them showing off what the next, or what the new Unreal Engine is really capable of. So we've seen a lot of it with, Forspoken, because we've seen a lot of Forspoken lately, and the game does look impressive. But they weren't pushing things the way that something like this does. This is a tech demo. This is designed to push things in a way that, yes, it is being rendered on a console, or on a computer. But it doesn't have to be interactive, which means they can be a little trickier with camera angles, to sort of make things look better than they might necessarily be. There was a term defined by Penny Arcade many years ago after the PlayStation 3 debut called bullshots, where it's a bullshit screenshot, and that was very much the tone back then. Is you would get these amazing visual trailers that were very cinematic in their design, but they didn't actually look like that. The games didn't look like that when they were released. So that's just one of those things. Obviously, we saw some Unreal Engine stuff last year with the Matrix, the interactive world from the Matrix that was around. That was, one of those nice things. Didn't really actually provide anything for players, but sure. But yeah, so it's just one of those things, that now that that's done, we will start seeing more games develop for the platform, for the engine. Obviously, Unreal Engine 5 has been in use for quite a while out by Lucasfilm. It is the engine that powers the Volume, which is the virtual reality set, or the virtual production set, I should say, for The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and the upcoming Obi-Wan show, and the Andor spin-off as well. So yeah, they've done a lot with it already, but now that it's officially feature complete and in full release, that means more companies can license it. So Joe Blow's indie development studio can now technically license Unreal Engine 5 to develop their game, should they decide they want to. So with all that good news, though, we have to talk a bit of bad news, and that is that 2 Point Campus has been delayed from its planned May release until August. So initially, the gates for the campus experience were due to open on May 17th, but in order to release the game on all its platforms at the same time, 2 Point Studios and Sega have announced that they will be delaying the release of the game until August 9th, giving the team about 3 extra months of development time in order to make sure that all the versions of the game are polished as much as they can be. So Mark Webley, the game director from 2 Point Studios, said in a statement, "Our ambition from the start has been to release 2 Point Campus across all PC and console platforms simultaneously to the quality and standard that our community expects from us. This means we need a little bit more time with 2 Point Campus to make sure we deliver the best possible game that can be enjoyed equally on all platforms. We will use these additional 3 months to optimize 2 Point Campus for all platforms." So as I said, it's just one of those things where they've just decided they need a little bit more time in order to get it done right, so they're just delaying it. So I actually did get a chance to play the game a couple of weeks ago for about 4 hours. This is about how much time I put into it, for vooks.net. So you can head over to vooks.net to check all that out. So we actually got a chance to play the game for a number of hours and got a chance to ask some questions of one of the designers from the game as well. So let me just pop the hands-on story in the chat here. Obviously, we were looking at it from a Nintendo point of view, but I was playing the PC build because that's what they sort of provided for it. One of the big things that I got to take away from it is that if 2 Point Hospital is if everything's about a bit of a circus act, you're always constantly juggling things. 2 Point Hospital is you're juggling 1,000 things while you're on a unicycle. Right? You can't stop. If you stop, things will fall apart. You'll break down. 2 Point Campus is very different in that when the school year is done, you can have as much time as you want between the end of that year and the start of the next one to rebuild everything. So you can modify the layout of your buildings, add in new facilities, expand the dormitories, put in more things outside, reconfigure the layout of everything, to make it how you'd like. And then once you're happy with it, or you've run out of money, you can then start the school year again, and then start enjoying, the full experience of dealing with everything that pops up from all the students saying, hey, how much they want this, how much they want that. So, it is very cool that this is a little more, forgiving. Is one way to put it. It's not that dissimilar in terms of gameplay though. There's just a lot more. So with Hospital, once the patients were cured, they would leave. Right here, once the students finish their lecture, they go back to the dorm and they sleep. They go to the library to study. They go outside to play games. They go for a shower. Right? Maybe they go to one of their social clubs, or as you can see there, the teams, the groups that they can join. So there's a lot more that they can do once they've finished, the lecture. And you've constantly got to keep up on that. They'll be asking for the social club. They'll be asking for things to do. Maybe they want a specific type of seat outside to enjoy, sitting on, stuff like that. So, it just being delayed by 3 months. As I said, it's always sad. Having a game be delayed is always a sad thing. But, the turnaround is that, once they're sort of done with it, we'll see some more, a better quality game for all across the board once that is actually available. Whether or not, though, it's because of, a single fault that they found they just needed to fix, or they just wanted more time, we have to take what they're saying as being the accurate reason, which is more time. But yeah. Also announced during the week is the newest capture device from Elgato. So Elgato are the makers of many of the capture devices that most gamers use. There are other brands. Razer have their own. Ava Media have their own as well. They've got a few different options from them. But Elgato is probably the one that most people know. So I have two Elgatos. I have an old one and I have the new 4K 60S Plus, which is sitting just off to my side. But the one that they announced during the week is the HD60X. So obviously, does HD 60 frames a second, right? But the capture device will also do 4K at 30 frames a second. But the reason why this is very, very, very big news is that it will also allow variable refresh rate support. So, 5 years ago even, PC screens were very much, it's either this is 60 megahertz, 70, 80, 90, 120, right? Then we started getting 4K content, so screens started going, hey, we're going to do 144 hertz, right? So they started offering more, like higher refresh rates in order to provide the best experience possible. TVs started catching up, and then now the next big thing for them is what's called variable refresh rate, or VRR. What that means is that the support support. The refresh rate that screens support can change. So if a game is locked at 60 frames a second, then the screen itself may alter to stay at 60 frames a second. So it's rendering everything it's being told is 60 at 60, right? So what VRR does is it means that the screen isn't set to be 144 permanently, and then things look a little weird, you know, if you're playing at 60 or even 30 or vice versa. With the current capture devices, so even my $650 model that I have sitting off to the side here, if the refresh rate from the game is different, or, you know, my screen is different, the capture card doesn't care. It just captures it at, you know, 60 and it's locked. This new one allows for the refresh rate to be changing to go through it. Interestingly, it also does, it's been made for you know, the current platforms, so PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch and all that. So it also does support lag-free pass-through. So a lot of the devices that people have now will do lag-free pass-through if you're doing it to like another screen. If you're using the software that, you know, Elgato create for capturing on the PC, sometimes that's like a second or two behind, which for some games isn't a big deal, but for other games it is a very big issue, especially if you're playing competitively online with people. So the lag-free pass-through will work, you know, there, and with that they're saying you can do up to 2160 at 60 frames a second. It does also HDR capture and all the bits and pieces. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but you can actually record content at 576p or 480p. Maybe if you've got old VHS tapes, you're absolutely chomping at the bit to record into a digital format, maybe. On the back, it is very simple. HDMI in, so your source, so your console, HDMI out to your screen, and USB-C to your computer to capture or record the footage as you know, make use of it. There is no set release date here for it yet. It just came out during the week in the US. We may get information sometime during the next week, but the price point in the US is $200. With that $200 price point, it should come out here around $270, but, you know, it may hit around $300 just to be a little you know, of a rounded number. Also during the week, we got the reveal of a new Rainbow Six game. And it's a mobile game. So some excitement and then a big letdown. So Rainbow Six Mobile is basically the Siege experience being brought to mobile devices. So it's not a one-to-one adaptation of the Siege game, but is heavily inspired by it, to the point where it is, to me, not an actual Rainbow Six game. Anyone who thinks Rainbow Six Siege is a Rainbow Six game is very, very, very mistaken. We do know the game's been in development for a number of years now, with Ubisoft Montreal being the studio in charge of development. And while obviously Ubisoft Montreal are the studio behind Siege, there are two distinct teams working on this. So the team that is behind Siege, still working very much on Siege, as the developers for the mobile game have said, and the mobile team is a different group within the Montreal office. The announcement trailer, unfortunately, doesn't really show anything. I'll throw it on, but it is very, very generic, you know, in what it's displaying. You know, in-game engine cinematics. Well, that's not great. It's not showing you gameplay if it's doing that. Some of the maps have been pulled from Siege, so if you have played Siege before, this is going to be extremely familiar. It's the same core mechanics. You know, the attackers have to work on a plan in order to get in and take down the defenders. The defenders have, you know, a few minutes to, you know, prepare traps, barriers, and all the other things to sort of ensure that people can't get in to take them down. I personally don't think this is a Rainbow Six game that needed to exist. It's one of those things where this I look at it and I go, cool, it's Siege. Siege already exists on consoles and PC. They didn't need a mobile version of it. And I know they're saying this isn't Siege. It's like, yeah, but you look at it and it's Siege, right? The only thing that I have a big problem with is that it didn't need to exist, for one, but two, it's still not Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six Siege is a flawed game because it takes away what made the Rainbow Six games fun. So one of the big things about Rainbow Six was that it was purely driven by your choices, right? So obviously the ones that people know best are Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2. But, you know, we had Rainbow Six 3 Lockdown. There was the original Rainbow Six way back in the day on Nintendo 64 and PC. And it was all about choice. It was all about the decisions you made, right? And there is an extent of this in Siege where they say, you know, oh, do you want to go through this door or that door, right? But the problem with this is Rainbow Six being as tactical as it was, is that you had time to plan out your assault, right? You could learn where the enemies were. You could learn where the hostages were if that was one of the missions. You could do everything you needed to do in order to ensure that you were getting the best, advantage in your scenario. The Siege experience strips all that down and gives you like 2 minutes to check everything. And then if you're attacking, if you're defending, you get 2 minutes to set up some barriers, throw some C4 around, whatever. And then it just becomes a generic shooter, right? There's no tactical elements involved in that at that point. It's just a standard shooter, where you had time to explore the map. It's like, yes, but the maps don't change, so you don't really need to explore it every single time. I could rant and rave about Rainbow Six until the cows come home, and I probably will at some point, because it is not... Rainbow Six is very near and dear to my heart. I'm a massive fan of the book and the original games, and they're the ones that were developed by Red Storm Entertainment, which Tom Clancy himself founded to develop games based on his books. Then Ubisoft got their hands on it, and they took everything to be this same, multi-year seasonal junk pile of gaming stuff that we're in at the moment. I'm not a fan of Siege. I don't think it is a good game at all. And the fact that it is still going after like 6 years highlights that, they're more about flashy new characters rather than developing a proper Rainbow Six experience. But that's what I think. If we're going to look at something good, though, we have some very, very good news for Trek to Yomi. Hey, Dabs. Yeah, look, the Rainbow Six games now, the Siege experience is not Rainbow Six. Extraction is 1,000 times worse. I don't know how anyone thought that was a Rainbow Six game. That would be the same as if Mario Kart wasn't about driving things, but was about managing maintenance of the carts in the pits, right? Or Mario Kart became a manager game where you had to balance the cost of the fuel required to keep the carts going, and the team maintenance costs and all that sort of stuff, right? Just because it has the name attached to it doesn't mean it's the same thing, right? They've done something different with Ghost Recon. It's still very much at its core a Ghost Recon experience, but Siege completely changed the entire formula of what Rainbow Six was, and as I said, it's just not Rainbow Six. I've had this argument with people that even work at Ubisoft I'm saying the same thing, and they're like, yeah, but it's a different type of game. It's like, no, it's not. It's not Rainbow Six. But yeah, if I keep on that, I'm going to rant for the rest of the show. Good news though, Trek to Yomi has a release date. So Trek to Yomi is the game that was developed by one man, Leonardo Menciari, and then he was developing it, and then Flying Wild Hog, a developer out of Poland who most recently just shipped Shadow Warrior 3 for Devolver Digital. They saw what was being developed and they said, hey, we can help you make this even better. So they came on board. That is very possible, Tabs. So Flying Wild Hog are developing Trek to Yomi alongside the original developer, and Devolver Digital are publishing it. And it's very much, you're playing through an old style Kurosawa film. So during the week, they released this massive 15-minute chunk of gameplay. Let me just skip to the actual gameplay portions of it. I got to play this last month. I fell in love with it. It is, honestly, it's visually impressive. It's entirely black and white. All the audio, like all the spoken audio, is in Japanese with English subtitles. There was one scene that just reminded me of I was going to say Trek to Yomi, Yojimbo. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name of it. So it's very much this style of, sort of 2D side scrollers. You're exploring. You've got a light attack, a heavy attack. You can parry and you can defend. That's it. So if somebody's coming at you quickly, you can either choose to defend it and just take the hit, or you can parry it. And if you parry it correctly, you'll be able to then, do a quick attack to them to take them out in one hit. That can also restore health. If you have taken some damage, if you do, a good parry, you can, restore some of your health to keep you going in the fight. Those little shrines do restore and act as checkpoints as well. So the game's coming May 5 to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And if you are on Xbox, it is launching into Game Pass on the same day. I personally can't wait for this one. It caught my eye when they first announced it because of its unique visual style. I thought it was honestly one of the most unique games that I'd seen in a long time. It has been a long time coming. We saw this one announced maybe 2 or 3 months after Ghost of Tsushima released, where that was, very much, the modern day take on, what a samurai game could be essentially. This is very much an old school sort of take on that sort of same concept. Obviously, it's not open world in that, you can run around and explore everything, but it is very cool. And if you've seen the preview that I have on the site, it is essentially cinematic. You can, if I pause the video here, it could be mistaken for a screen, a still from an old Kurosawa film. So it's very much that style of game. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. Again, they kept saying it was going to release in autumn, so having that release date is good news. Because it is one that I'm very, very much looking forward to. So during the week, we also got the reveal of a bunch of new games coming to Xbox Game Pass, but a lot of them are all coming to Xbox Cloud Gaming. Sorry, I was kind of got the wrong name. So this week saw the release of MLB The Show 22 from Sony's San Diego studio. That game did release obviously on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, as is normal for a PlayStation-owned and developed title. Because of the license involved, MLB, the game also released for the second year on the Xbox platforms, and also launching into Game Pass on the same day. But this year also released on Switch. So on April 5th, so back on Tuesday, that game released. It is also available through Xbox Cloud Gaming, so you can actually just start playing it without even having to install the game now. But the same day, we also got Cricket 22 from Big Ant Studios down in Melbourne. So those two games are both available through console and cloud as part of the Game Pass lineup. It is a little funny to see these two games released on the same day onto Game Pass. Obviously, Cricket 22 released last year on Xbox, as a retail game. But the fact that they're both, releasing into Game Pass on the same day, it's like, here's one that's developed by this mega studio in California that has, this budget, that it has the MLB license attached to it, that has, a lot of cash behind it. And here's one developed by a small team in Melbourne, that uses, has the licenses, has the rights to everything. But the you can just see the quality difference in it. Also released this week was Chinatown Detective Agency, that released on both console and PC, also via the cloud. It also did release on the other platforms as well, so that's there as well. The rest of them, though, it's not the rest of them, but the big sort of releases is that Dragon Age 2, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, and Star Wars Squadrons all released via cloud as part of Xbox Cloud Gaming. So you now can play Star Wars Squadrons on your mobile phone should you choose to. I say don't do it because I don't think it's a very good game. It's okay, but it has some weird design choices behind it. Coming next week, Life is Strange True Colors will hit all three services, so console, PC, and cloud on April 12, along with Panzer Corps 2 for PC. and the Dungeon of Nehulbeck on PC, which is an ID at Xbox title. Lost in Random will also release next week as part of the EA Play portion of the system. So PlayStation fans will also get access to that as well through EA Play on PlayStation, but that's a separate charge. We had a few more released last week, like Kraken Academy, Paradise Killer from Fellow Traveller. There's obviously the perks in that, but the big thing is that with new games coming, there are games releasing. So now that MLB The Show 22 is out, MLB The Show 21 is leaving next week, along with Rain on Your Parade, The Long Dark Cloud, and Pathway. And then later, just after Easter, F1 2019 will also be gone from the service. So it is interesting, that now that MLB The Show 22 is out, they're taking the old one away. Not sure why they decided to do it that way, but so be it. Whew, we're getting through the news. Also released this week were the tickets for DreamHack Melbourne. So DreamHack is an event that's been taking place around the world for a number of years now, but Melbourne is the first time the show is coming to Australia. It is very much the BYOC portion of PAX. So it is a LAN festival where people are encouraged to bring their computers and play games. But beyond that, there are also hands-on for other games, tech, and all sorts of things to showcase. The big thing is that the tickets were put on sale this week. The show is running September 2nd and 3rd in Melbourne. So if you are someone who wants to go to the show, it will be in Melbourne. The day pass is $50 for each day. Or if you want the festival pass, so it's Friday the 2nd through Sunday the 4th. And then obviously the 3rd in the middle. If you want all 3 days, it's $109. If you're going to take your PC just to play games there, it is $155. So it is interesting. Tickets went on sale yesterday. There was an early access period the day before for people that had signed up to the newsletter. Yeah, so a lot of awards. The BAFTAs for games were overnight as well. We're unpacking, picked up a couple of awards. So yeah, but DreamHack obviously, it's one of those shows where it's going to be very unique this year because it's the first year that it's happening in Australia. So we have to wait and see how it's going to shake down. It is at the Melbourne Sports and Olympic Park, so it'll be in and around sort of Rod Laver Arena and Margaret Court, or all around there. How it shapes out, we just have to wait and see because we don't really know yet. Whew. Only a few stories left. Late last week, the New Game Plus Expo, which is hosted by NIS America, took place and showcased a bunch of titles, mostly coming out of Japan, but there were a few locally developed games as well. Outside of Japan developed. So in terms of order, these things were, some games have dates, some games have windows, some games just have platforms announced. So there's, Birushana Rising Flower of Genpei, Rico London, that's coming out later this month for Xbox. Samurai Bringer is coming out this month as well for, Switch PC and PS4. Azura Striker Gunvolt 3, we've got a new gameplay trailer for that one. The one that I am very sort of interested in, if I can find the game. So there's another Prinny Presents thing where they're bringing sort of classic PS1 era games across to Switch and PC as part of that series. So Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger IX2, is out now. It released last week as part of the program for all of them. Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is coming to PlayStation 5. It is already on PS4, Switch, and PC. There it is, Sunday. So let me just... So it is one of those ones that has sort of, a pixelated art style, like seems to be the trend at the moment. If you're an indie developer, you have to pixelate your game. But I'll just let the trailer play for a second. So I look at it and I see it sort of like a bullet hell meets Bionic Commando. So it sort of caught my eye with the sort of zipping around everywhere. But, you know, with all these things like shooting at the character, you know, it sort of just seems very chaotic. It is only confirmed for PC at the moment. It is coming to early access soon. But yeah, I don't know. It's the one that sort of caught my eye because it does, as I said, it has that pixelated art style, which so many games do. But I don't know. There's just something about it. It just seems to have a bit more going on than just being a sort of retro-ish, you know, design aesthetic. But yeah, I don't know. I think it looks very cool. I will throw the link in the chat for this one because, as I said, there are quite a number of games that were shown off during the event. Not as many as the Mix event from a few weeks ago with their 90 so games, but yeah, still a decent number of titles. So yeah, there's obviously these things. Obviously, you know, they come packed with a lot of information. They sort of speed through some of them. Sometimes it's just a quick 30-second trailer. One of them was that. Yeah, I'm not going to pay attention to that joke, Tabs. It was pretty sweet, though. Also today, the promised Metroid Dread Boss Rush update was released. So, as being reported here by Vooks.net, the 2.1.0 update adds in multiple boss rush modes. So the big one obviously is the standard boss rush where you're playing through 12 fights back to back. All your energy and weapons, all your weapons are fully restored between fights, but the damage you've taken remains. So if by the end of the first fight you've lost 90% of your health, then you have to go through and fight through for the remainder of them as much as you can with that little bit of health. If you use all your missiles, you get all those back between bosses, but you don't get any of your health back. Survival Rush is basically how many can you clear in a 5-minute window. And as many sort of hoped or assumed they would do on their own, the Dread Rush mode is combining the Dread difficulty with the boss rush. So you get all 12 bosses, no health recovery, you get all your weapons restored, but a single hit from them will kill you. It is then game over. So yeah, it is very interesting that that's out now. It's nothing major. I'm personally not a boss rush fan. I don't find anything remotely interesting about them. You know, a good boss should be played and enjoyed once. If I have to replay and fight the same boss 15 times in a row, it's not going to, you know, endear itself to me. It just, you know, annoys the hell out of me. So, and it was how difficult some of these bosses were when I played through the game originally. I'm not chomping at the bit to go back and play and fight them again because, you know, why would I? They were a challenge the first time. I don't need to punish myself going forward. Speaking of punishing things going forward, so in late 2020, Limited Run Games released. They started taking orders for the Monkey Island Anthology, which consisted of Monkey Island 1, Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge, Monkey Island 3, The Curse of Monkey Island, Monkey Island 4, and the Tales from Monkey Island series, which were done by Telltale Games back in the WiiWare days. The anthology took 12 months to release because it came packed in with so much information, so many goodies. One of the things being a signed authenticity card by series creator Ron Gilbert. In that time, between essentially before that anthology was announced and when it released, Ron Gilbert seems to have been stuck in Monkey Island mode because during the week, his studio announced an all-new Monkey Island game. So it's been over a decade since we got the last Monkey Island series, which was the Tales from Monkey Island by Telltale Games back during the Wii era. They released 2010, 2011 in the 5-part episodic things that Telltale were known for. Obviously, there was a few before then. So there's been 5 Monkey Island games. The very interesting thing about this one is that it is developed by Terrible Toy Box, which is Ron Gilbert's studio. They came together to develop Thimbleweed Park. Thimbleweed? Yeah, Thimbleweed. That received phenomenal acclaim because it was such a well put together, old school point and click adventure game. When Disney bought Lucasfilm, he made the comment about, how he'd love to make another Monkey Island game. He would even go so far as to, buy the rights off Disney and Lucasfilm to develop it himself. What seems to have happened is Disney have picked up somebody who is very passionate about. It was Tabs. So Ron Gilbert is notorious for hating on April Fools. He finds it to be an utterly pointless and useless day, and anyone who sort of takes part in it does so for, stupid reasons, essentially. So he absolutely hates it, which is why it was very interesting. On April 1st, he put out on his blog, on his site, basically saying, hey, what would people think about a new Monkey Island game? And obviously, being that it was April 1st, nobody took it seriously. But with his history of hating on April 1st and people using it to sort of not make jokes so much, but just sort of poke fun and get people's hopes up for the wrong reasons. People weren't sure of exactly how to take it. But yeah, they did reveal a new Monkey Island game during the week. So let me just play this very brief teaser trailer. Obviously, it does support a very, very different art style to what we've seen in the past. The first two games had, the pixelated art style that they were known for back in the 90s. Monkey Island 3 had a like a sort of 2D hand-drawn, visual style to it, which is very, very cool. Monkey Island 4, honestly, is the weakest one for me because it's the one I've only ever played through once, back on the PS2. It did not work well. There was just something wrong about that game, and that included its visual art style. And then obviously we got the first two games were remade for the Xbox 360 era back then, and they were great remakes because you could swap back and forth between the new visual style, the new soundtrack, the new audio, and the originals. And they also got Dominic Arturo to come back in and record all the dialogue as Guybrush Threepwood. Where it's sort of interesting is that Ron Gilbert was not involved in any game after Monkey Island 2. So 3, Escape from Monkey Island, and Tales from Monkey Island were all done without his input. Tales from Monkey Island, however, was done with the input of Dave Grossman, who was one of the writers on the original games. So the three developers behind them were Ron Gilbert, Dave Grossman, and Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer is obviously a double fine, and they've done a lot lately with some of the old with the old Lucasfilm games, doing like HD remasters of things like Grim Fandango. So yeah, as you can see here I've paused the video here. The music is being done by Michael Land, Peter McConnell, and Clint Bajakian, who were also the folks that did the music for the original games as well. So we have the series creator, the writer, the musicians, all coming back. Dominic, I can never remember his surname. I keep saying the wrong thing. Armato. Dominic Armato is back again as Guybrush Threepwood. He's been in the studio recording new dialogue. And Rex Kroll, so he was one of the artists on Little Big Planet, Tearaway for Media Molecule, and a few others. He's the art director for this new game Return to Monkey Island, which is why it has this new look. And as Tabs has said in the chat here, that we have Murray, the talking skull, down here. Murray was originally introduced in Monkey Island 3. So this is what Ron Gilbert is saying is Monkey Island 3, because this is sort of the story he wanted to tell. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end. How this connects to the others, if it does, we have to wait and see. Obviously, Monkey Island 2 ended with Guybrush being, thrown into the ocean, after the explosion at Big Whoop, the theme park. And Monkey Island 3 begins with him in a Dodgem car, sort of explaining how he got there and all that. So if they connect to each other, we have to wait and see. Or this could be a Star Wars thing where, because this is now back in the hands of the creator, he's ignoring the ones he wasn't involved in and saying, no, they're not canon, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so Curse of Monkey Island was 3. Monkey Island 1 was just Monkey Island. Then Monkey Island 2 was Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge. Monkey Island 3 was Curse of Monkey Island. 4 was Escape from Monkey Island. And then 5 was Tales from Monkey Island. Give me 1 second. Have here my massive Monkey Island anthology box that I got as part of the big collection from Limited Run Games last year, and it does have them there. And as I said, when they said that they'd be signed, Ron Gilbert said that he was expecting a couple of hundred things to sign. He actually had to sign 7,000 of them. So this is my certificate of authenticity. This is number 94 of 7,000. So I'm very, very happy with that. And because this is a game that has things that are actually on discs, and it actually came with a bunch of replica things. So here's disc 22 of the original Monkey Island. I keep saying the original. It's called The Secret of Monkey Island. But the thing that has sort of excited me about this collection, and if you're a Monkey Island fan like me, was that it came with this massive art book. So this book itself is absolutely packed with art. So there's one of the first scenes that you see, as you're walking into town. So that's the thing. So Curse of Monkey Island is my favorite. If I have to rank them, it's Curse, OG, 2, Tales, and Escape. Escape is the weakest one for me. Ron Gilbert said in a Twitter comment, when he said that, he's pulled Murray from Curse of Monkey Island into his game because he likes the character. But he said this is basically Monkey Island 3A. So how that works out, we have no idea, in all honesty. But it's just very cool. I do have my replica wheel, so I can solve the puzzles in the game. There's a whole bunch more stuff in the box. I'm not going to pull it all out here now. But yeah, so I'm a massive Monkey Island fan. So this is very, very exciting news for me. It's also why I left this news to the last for the show, because it's just one of those ones where I wanted it to be. I wanted to talk about it more and rant and rave and praise that it was coming. I said we don't really know much about it. We do know that Devolver Digital are publishing it. So that's sort of one of the more interesting things about this is it's not that just the Devolver Digital is publishing it. It's that Lucasfilm have this new, not Lucasfilm specifically, but Disney have this new methodology of providing access to these classic IPs for developers, in that if you have the idea, if you have the expertise and everything to develop the game, but if you have the idea to say, hey, I've got this idea for a game, this is what I'm going to do, and you can provide proof that you have the ability, they're happy to work with you. Whereas for years, if Disney themselves didn't want to make a game, for a while there, Disney Infinity was sort of their last big project. We had Epic Mickey and its sequel. They did a Tron game, and they also did a Turok game. So if you remember that Disney did a Turok game, they do a lot of this sort of stuff where they were making games themselves and they weren't really selling because, they sort of expected more from the developers than they should have. So when Disney shuttered Disney Interactive, a lot of people just thought, well, great, now we're not going to get any of these things. When Disney bought Lucasfilm, they shuttered LucasArts, so Star Wars 1313 went away. That's when EA got the 10-year deal to say, hey, we're going to make, exclusive Star Wars games, from which we've had 4 games from them, and 2 of them were just shooters. So, but then they got this new guy, and forgive me, I've forgotten his name, but he came in back in 2019 and basically said, hey, if we're willing to work with you, you've got the ideas, if you've got the things. So whether or not Ron Gilbert reached out to him or he reached out to Ron Gilbert, we don't know. There was the tweet that went around during the week Yeah, there was a Turok game from Disney. It was just called Turok, and it was officially published as part of Touchstone, which Touchstone is one of the live action brands that Disney had for a while. So I've just thrown the link from the Disney fandom wiki page in the chat. But yeah, so there was a tweet that went out that was sort of resurrected during the week that had this guy that started Disney saying, "Hey, come work with us," and Devolver Digital basically just said, "Opens briefcase full of money." So yeah, it's very interesting that they've done it. I'm very, very excited for it. Obviously, we don't know platforms. I'll be honest, PC is very, very likely because they all came to PC. Switch is possible because Ron Gilbert has had a lot of success with Nintendo platforms as well. But honestly, I wouldn't surprise me if this didn't come to everything. We just have to wait and see. So, yeah, I'm looking at this Turok page again. It's so weird. It did not do well. It was just so weird. Yeah, but there you go. So yeah, Monkey Island. Very excited for that one. We'll have to wait and see how that all shakes out. Obviously, though, as I said, we're going to throw in a bit of a forecast, looking ahead at the week of games to come. As with the games in April story that the games of the month we post on the 1st of every month. April is very, very quiet. We had a few games released this week, obviously with Lego Star Wars, MLB The Show, House of the Dead remake, Chrono Cross remaster. Obviously there's hundreds more games in terms of some of the bigger ones coming out in the next sort of 7 days. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is coming to Switch. That's a Vanillaware game that originally released back on PS4. It's a very, very beautiful looking game. We have someone reviewing that now. Nobody Saves the World was announced last week as coming to Switch and PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. That was originally an Xbox PC exclusive, released earlier in the year. So that's now coming across there, and that's done by Drinkbox Studios, the folks behind Guacamelee and Severed. We also have Tormented Souls, which is a horror game from P-Cube. It looks okay-ish on Switch. We did review it last year on PC, and it was okay. There was, however, a massive puzzle roadblock that we just could not work out the solution to. I say I wasn't playing it for review, but Aaron, who did review it, we spent an hour trying to work. We went through every possible combination of solutions for this puzzle. I watched him go back and explore areas around it to see if he had everything. He had everything he needed. The game just was not accepting the solution. So, and that's next week as well. It is a very, very quiet week. Obviously, next week is the Easter weekend, so don't expect a lot from companies next week because they'll all be doing a bit of a shorter week to have a bit of a break. The week after that, is very different. We've got Star Wars, and Pocky and Rocky Reshined from Natsume. It's being done as well. So yeah, so there's some stuff coming next week, but April as a whole is very, very quiet. That is it for another episode of the Maxi Geek Show. We'll be back next Friday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time to talk more things, gaming, geeky, movies, whatever it happens to be. We will be able to talk a bit more about a couple of games coming out in the future next week. Unfortunately, I can't talk about them now because of non-disclosure agreements. We'll be back on Tuesday for the next installment of the Games Bond series, where we will be finishing through Everything or Nothing. There was like 4 missions to go when we wrapped it up on Tuesday. So we'll be back for those final ones then. After that, the next game in the series that we'll be doing is GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which was the very, very poorly themed attempt at using the GoldenEye brand to bolster sales for their James Bond properties. So that's just a standard first-person shooter again, and then after that we'll be back on From Russia with Love, which is the one that Sean Connery stars in, and that's back to the third personing that Everything or Nothing is. So yeah, so looking forward to those. So we're back for that on Tuesday at 7 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, and then next Friday for more Maxi Geek show again at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you did watch this show live, thank you for watching live. If you did watch the VOD on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, we'll catch you next week. And until then, happy gaming.